Welcome back to Actor for Real, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of acting with practical advice and real-life stories. I'm your host, Anastasia Chernaya. Today, we're tackling a crucial aspect of acting, memorization. Whether you're a seasoned actor or just starting out, mastering the art of memorizing lines is essential for delivering a powerful performance. We will explore techniques, share tips, and hear some inspiring stories to help you become a memorization pro. Let's dive in and make those lines stick. In this episode, I will be sharing with you my personal techniques, my most favorite techniques that I use to make sure that I memorize the lines. And I will tell you just how I memorized 9 pages of dialogue-heavy material for a self-tape that I did 3 months ago. In 1 hour, I memorized those 9 pages in 1 hour. And I booked it. And to tell you more, I had to memorize about double that amount for the 2 filming days that I had on set for that specific project. And I made such an impression with my memorization and my professionalism that I am happy to tell you guys that the same director reached out to me and offered me to record another episode for that project. And I have 7 more pages of dialogue-heavy material in my hands for that next episode. And when I say it's dialogue-heavy, I mean it, you guys. And I printed it out so that you can see just how dialogue-heavy it is. Look at these monologues. Look at this. You see that? Yeah, it's a lot, and it continues. So, let's get started. To start, I will be covering some motivations behind making sure that you're actually practicing memorization. And I do recommend practicing memorization daily. You can find the script online, you can find monologues online, you can write your own scripts or monologues yourself and then memorize them and then record them or not, but just make sure you are practicing that skill and you're training that muscle. Here are some reasons why it is important to make sure that you are memorizing your lines for the self-tape, your audition, if it's in person, or when you are on set, you booked it, and you are preparing yourself for the filming of that project. Memorizing your lines will set you apart from those actors who cannot get their lines down. And believe me, there are more of those actors that just are failing to memorize their lines than those who are actually taking their time to practice that skill and get that down. Here's why you need to make sure that you are memorizing your lines. There's nothing worse than an actor who cannot get their lines down that is forcing the production to have multiple takes of the shot that doesn't need 20 takes. And it's actually essentially, in the whole big picture, making the production lose their money. And nobody likes to lose money. Because guess what? If you are not being a professional actor, showing up, getting your part of the job done, then you will probably not be called back to any future production that crew might have. And you don't want that, because your goal is to create the relationships with the crew, with the production, to be called back again and again and again, because that will bring more money into your pocket, that will bring more money into the pocket of the production. And hey, everything revolves around money. Not everything, but a lot of it. Now, if an actor is not memorizing their lines, it means that production will probably have to take a lot more time to record more takes of the same shot, which is frustrating for everybody. It will delay the whole production. It will delay the schedule. The actor is frustrated. The actor is not able to perform and bring their full acting power into the shot and create a powerful performance. There's nothing better than having your lines memorized completely and fully, because it frees you up to be behaving as if it's actually really happening to you, to have some improvisation, to play as a kid in a playground, just having fun. Because when you don't have your lines down, it restricts you a lot. And all you can think about is what is the next line. And you do not want that, because what we see on screen is a reflection of real life. And a lot of times in real life, we are so present in the moment that we don't really think too much about what is going to happen next. And trust me, having your lines down and not having to stop to ask those lines or look at the script again and again will set you far apart from any actor who actually needs to do that. Which shows that you are a professional, and it shows that you can be trusted, and it shows that, hey, we want to work with that actor. So let's discuss some techniques. Repetition is one of the most common ones, and it's pretty much the whole foundation of memorizing lines, because you do need to repeat those lines over and over again to make sure that they actually stick in your brain and they become sort of part of you. Chunking. You can break down your script into chunks and then you can study it one chunk at a time. It kind of helps to make it easier for you to memorize bigger scripts. Visualization. A lot of actors like to visualize what a scene would look like while they are memorizing. And it might help you to retain the information better, but you have to be very careful with visualization, because you might associate yourself so much with your vision that you created in your brain that when you show up to set, it might actually throw you off a lot, because it won't look anything like what you visualized. But what you can visualize is a nice outcome of you memorizing fully the script that you have at hand, and that you show up to set, and that you are free to play and behave as if it's actually really happening to you in those circumstances of that scene. Association is another technique that people use, and just like visualization, you have to be really careful with that, because association is basically when you take a line of the script and you associate that line with a certain action that you perform, or a certain movement, a certain motion. Let's say you need to reach out for a cup of coffee, or you need to walk from one corner to the other while you're saying that line. All of that is association, which is a great technique because technically it has to do with the movement, and we will cover a lot of that coming up. You have to make sure that you are very careful with that also, so that you are not over associating, just like over visualizing and kind of like associating yourself a little too much with that motion or that visual that you create in your brain. You might actually limit yourself, so nothing new can happen. Now, here are some more complex ways that actors memorize their lines. On that set that I have mentioned already, I talked to my scene partner. She told me that she memorized her lines, her 9 pages, by writing down all of her lines in a notebook. So what you do is you continuously write those lines that you have to memorize over and over again until you memorize them completely. And the reason why that technique works is because there has been actually plentiful of research done that showed that physical activity performed in conjunction with your memorization and repetition helps you retain that information so much better. So when you're writing it down, you are using your motor skills that are directly connected to your brain through your hand, whether you're maybe a left-hand person, I don't know. But whether you're writing it down with left or right hand, you're using your motor skills to retain that information and those lines, and that is why you actually memorize better, because they're connected to your brain. How mind-blowing is that? That actually works. Another method to memorizing lines is to practice those lines and reading those lines with a scene partner. It doesn't have to be the actual scene partner. You can actually do it with anybody, your friend, your family member, anybody who's willing to sit down and go through those lines with you. Practicing your lines with A scene partner helps you not only retain information because you are using repetition, but it sort of gives you an immediate feedback, and it might help you with getting used to reacting to certain lines that are being fed to you. Research has shown that performing physical activity in conjunction with memorization helps boost the production of this protein in your brain that's called BDNF, which in turn helps grow brain cells, and it helps with the brain cell function, which naturally helps you memorize better because your cognitive function improves with the production of BDNF. Now, a lot of research that I have studied showed that performing a physical activity, basically working out or doing some stretches right after you did a session of memorization, helps you retain that information so much better. Well, guys, I have combined all of those methods, all of those techniques that I told you about into this one method that I use for memorization, which helps me memorize 9 pages of dialogue-heavy material in just 1 hour. And I'm going to share it with you. And there's a few steps into that method that I will break down to you. Let's go. Now, remember how I told you that research has proven that physical activity is extremely helpful in memorizing lines because of that protein BDNF that helps with your brain cell function and creating and boosting brain work and activity and function and cognitive function and all that good stuff. Well, here's what I do. I go on a walk and I take the script with me. First thing that I do is I read the full script that I have in my hands that I need to study completely so that I have a full understanding of what is happening in that scene. At this point, you don't need to understand who is feeling what, where, what motion is coming. You don't need to visualize, you don't need to associate, you just need to read it as a page of the book. The next thing that I do after I have that down, I read it a few more times, just so that I am starting to see new nuances of that script, and I'm starting to repeat it. And I'm starting to memorize it just a little bit at a time. And when I'm reading those lines a few more times, I'm not trying to attach myself to anything that's being said or the emotions that are coming up or how I think this should be looking. All I'm trying to do is to pay attention to what's literally on the page, the action and the dialogue. That's all I'm trying to get at this point. I'm just reading it multiple times. Then, after I read it maybe like 3, 4, 5 times, I might read it out loud 1 or 2 times. You don't necessarily have to do that. I like to do that personally because I am foreign and I want to make sure that the way I'm saying those lines sounds, somewhat standard American-ish. Did you hear that accent come out just now? Yeah, that's the reason why I'm saying those lines out loud before I actually go in and say them for the first time. Now, if you are a native speaker, you might not need to do this, but I want to tell you that hearing yourself say those lines a couple of times might actually be beneficial because you will hear yourself and then that certain lines might come off a little bit off, or you might feel like maybe a certain word needs to be stressed or maybe not. So you kind of hear it from a different perspective, and that might turn out to be beneficial. After I've done that, that's when I break down the script into chunks. And usually with a script that's big like this, I would break it down into a page at a time, just so that it's easier to sort of retain the information. So what I do with every page is I study those lines and I try to memorize my lines on that page one at a time. And usually as I go through the pages, I try to repeat the previous pages once I think that I got that next page down. So first I memorize all of my lines on page 1, then I memorize all of the lines on page 2, then I repeat page 1 and page 2 out loud without trying to look into the script itself, and then I move on to page 3. And so on until I got all of that down. And that's just plain repetition, and that doesn't usually take too much time to do it that way because you're just doing a chunk at a time. Now, a lot of people try to memorize the dialogue of every single character on that page. I don't particularly do that. What I try to do instead is have an idea about what is being delivered in the lines of other characters that I am responding to one way or another. Because one, there's only so much RAM in your brain that is available to you for memorization, as I like to say. And two, you want to somewhat be surprised by the lines when you are filming, because that will help you to react and behave as if it's really happening to you. So instead of memorizing absolutely everything, I just try to stick to my lines and I just go until that is done. Another thing that I am actually keeping in mind when I'm memorizing, I'm not trying to attach myself to the emotions or the feelings or visualization, association, or anything that I think it's supposed to look like, because I don't know what's going to happen when I get to set on the day. It might look completely different. I might be wearing something different. Other outside factors might be affecting me. And all I want to do is behave as if it's actually really happening to me in the moment in that set of circumstances, instead of attaching myself. Because what happens when you attach yourself to your own visualization is nothing new can happen. It is one of your goals as an actor, is to have new things happen in the shot, that is in the take that is being filmed in the moment. And if you didn't know, film is a collection of great moments that are taken from different takes. It's not a continuously filmed, every scene has so many pieces, like a puzzle put together from those interesting moments that work better for the scene rather than you going through the whole thing and making it perfect. So keep that in mind. Release that perfection that's trying to tell you that you're supposed to be performing it perfectly. You don't. So I'm making sure that I'm not attaching myself to the emotions, to the visualization, to association that I might have with the scene and what's going on with this in the scene, because I want to make sure that I am free. I'm like a canvas when I get to set that the director can paint with. I know my lines, and then the rest I am willing, and I want these unexpected things to happen to me in the scene because I want to react to what is actually happening. And I want to behave as if it's actually really happening to me in the moment. So my whole job with memorization is getting my lines down like a robot. Yes, because when you have them down like a robot in the moment, when you're filming on the day, you can actually play with them, because what is acting but a play? And that is pretty much all I do. And that takes about an hour, even with a long script like that. Now, keep in mind, I have been doing this for 9 years, so it might take me much less time than anybody who's not been doing it for this long. But the good news is that the more you memorize, the better you will become at that. So when you are doing this on a daily, when you get to set and they give you completely new sides, different, rewritten from what you were studying and preparing for that day, it will take you no time to memorize those lines right then and there and prepare yourself with the new lines for that same scene. So make sure that you are doing it all of the time. Make sure that you are practicing your memorization on a daily. You don't have to memorize 9-page scripts. All you need is a couple of monologues, because that is a muscle that you need to train. And the more you do it, just like going to the gym, the better you become at it. Another tip that I want to share with you, and this is a big hush hush, you don't have to be word perfect every single time. Now, there will be times like with this script, for instance, because this is an industrial project, the client wants to be as close to the script as possible And you also need to be prepared for that. So you want to make sure that you are memorizing. But at the same time, I just want you to release the pressure, because if you're working on a project that is not an industrial and specifically made for training and specifically commercial, if you're working on something dramatic or comedic, whether it's a movie or a show or short film, things like that, then you don't have to be word perfect all of the time. You want to try to be, but the pressure you need to release. You need to understand that it is okay to mess up a word. It is okay to forget a word. It is okay to say your lines not in the order. It is okay to mess up, because we mess up as humans. We're not perfect. We are messy. And I want to remind you that what we see on the screen is nothing but a reflection of real life. And in real life, we are messy. So I want you to give yourself permission to not be word perfect. I want you to give yourself permission to be okay with messing up here and there. Don't make that a habit. Don't try to make that a thing that you do, because you do want to strive for getting your lines down as much as possible, but it is okay if you mess up here and there. This is all the information I've had for you guys. Today we talked about memorization techniques that are commonly used by actors, and I also shared with you the method that I have created for myself that helps me be successful at memorization. Make sure to like this episode if you found it helpful. Please share it with those that might benefit from it. Also, comment down below. Let me know what memorization techniques you use, or if you found some of these pretty helpful that you have never heard about. And please subscribe to my channel. It will help me grow. It will help me create more content, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.